Well, hello folks, I'm L.A. Little. This is your daily NeoTA wrap. We take a look at these markets and we do it each day asking ourselves just one question. What happened today? And what might it tell us about the coming ones? Do the show 4 times a week, Monday through Thursday, broadcast at or before 10 o'clock Eastern Time. It's archived on YouTube. It's under the channel L.A. Little. You can subscribe there. Also do a show on Sunday nights, same time. You subscribe in the same place. And content's pushed, you get notification. These markets, it is amazing to watch. I've watched these guys, and these guys, I'm talking about the market, right, for many years now. And every time I see some sort of a pattern develop and play out, you're like, wow, that's pretty impressive the way they did that, and the way the market held in there, or the way it fell apart, as it does at times. And right now, what amazes me is that this market just will not give it up. And I guess it shouldn't be amazing as much as, kind of par for the course, if you will, because right now, the market doesn't want to give it up. Every little pullback is bought. All that sort of stuff continues to happen, and there's just no end in sight, or at least it feels like there's no end in sight. And today, last night, if you remember, we were up on the equities, we were down across the commodities. Tonight we're up on just about everything other than the dollar. Nat gas was down a little bit, but oil was up 2%. We had silver, gold, everything. And in particular, we had the equity markets moving up again, and that is new highs on the composite, and we'll look at that here in a second. But if you're looking here for, what was the outperformance again? Well, again, it was the NDX, it was the composite, right? We had the Dow kind of trailing here, same thing on the S&P. They both gave it up a little bit at the end. But these two guys keep going, right? And I wrote an article, probably 2 months ago or so. And if I go back, we might be able to see it here on the front screen. It was down in here somewhere. I'm just kind of glancing through it. But basically what I was talking about is like this market wasn't going to be able to continue on the back of the composite. And that was back on that big run we had in what was it, February, right? And here we are in May, and we didn't continue. In other words, we had the big run, and then the rest of the market just couldn't pick up the baton and keep going. The market kind of followed the NASDAQ up. Here's the S&P. If you look at this pushback here, if we pull up, let me grab the NASDAQ chart here. If we pull up the NASDAQ chart, you can see that just continuous run in the NASDAQ, almost no break whatsoever, just day after day after day clawing higher. And then, it kind of gave it up big here, gave it up big here one more time, but then today it's over the top. And the impressive thing about today is that get over the top, right? Where you get over it, you stay over it. Volume wasn't there compared to that big bar volume that day. And that day has big volume every way. It was, I think it was quad witching, if I remember right. And that particular day has been an obstacle. It's been a magnet on the NASDAQ, not so much the others, but it's an obstacle elsewhere. And we'll look at the other charts real quick. But the point is, today it gets over it, stays over it. That thing can go higher. And at this point, you have the ABCD structure again, and we've seen failure after failure. Question is going to be is, can this one extend to its target? The target is not that much farther, right? It's only a few more points, so it may actually get there because it's not too extended. Where we should go look next, though, is go back to the S&P 500. That same big bar, same day, top of that 2113.92. What do we do today? We get over it, close under it. Right? Volume's not there, can't close over it, does not break out. So it's a test failure at the highs, but it actually had more volume than the swing point high. The bar that's really stopping it is the bar from the 20th, that quad witching bar. And if you go over the NDX, it's the same story, right? That same bar on the NDX, it is a swing point high here, 44.7869. It gets over it and closes just up underneath it. Tomorrow, Friday, right? You're coming in the end of the week. You're sitting right at the highs. You just got earnings out of Google, out of Microsoft, both of them big moves up. Amazon, big move up. Starbucks, big move up. You've got a lot of firepower coming in tomorrow. And that theory that I had that the rest of the market's going to drive our market is really going to be put to the test tomorrow, because now the NASDAQ is trying to claw its way higher and take the rest of the market with it again, just like it did back in February. My question is will the NASDAQ do what the Russell did, and that is you break out and then you come right back in again? And that will be the question. And as you can tell from the way I'm talking, I'm not completely sold on the idea that this is just going to continue higher. And I'll be back with some more thoughts regarding that.
Learn how to trade with the Trade with LA service provided to you by TA today. This service includes daily portfolio and comments that are emailed to you before the market opens each morning. We provide a daily view of the markets and a model portfolio you can follow even if you work another job. Every weekend, LA records his weekend broadcasts that gives you a synopsis of the week and a prognosis of coming weeks. You will also have access to our Teach and Trade room, where LA provides day trades and teaches neoclassical concepts throughout the trading day. To get started, go to our homepage and click Trade with LA.
But before we jump to the final thoughts and what happened today, and what probably is going to happen tomorrow and next week, let's take a viewer question here, and it has to do with the Nifty 50, as they call it in India. This is NSEI. A lot of times we'll take a look at the broad index itself, which is the Sensex. And if we look at this, I like looking at the Sensex as well as any particular ETF inside of it, or in this case, kind of a sector ETF almost. Volume pushing on the way down. This is going to try to test the lows, is the way it looks. Let's go back to the Nifty 50 though, and if we do that, what we're going to see over here is you've kind of got the same situation, right? Volume expansion, you get a little bounce into resistance. This is probably going to try to attack the lows and try to get underneath it. Now, if you look at this on a long-term time frame, this market, ever since Modi came into power, it's been on a huge tear. So it's not like this is about to roll over and go, skyrocketing or skydiving, back the other way. I don't suspect that's what's going to happen. What you have happening here is what I thought was going to happen way back here, and that is you're going to get some sort of consolidation, or you have some sort of consolidation already starting to take place, and it's probably going to continue. You get a huge move. The stock market broke out, and this particular Nifty 50 broke out around 6,100, just below this area. Went all the way up to 91. Right? That's a 50% move in a year. Okay, you can't get those moves year after year. It just doesn't happen that way, right? It's going to come back, and it's going to consolidate, and it's going to take time. Where can it consolidate to? If I had to, give a guess, it could come all the way back to here, more likely maybe back into this area, but it's going to take a long time for it to do that, even if it gets that deep. Right now, right, you have this swing point high that was tested, and you have the high up above it, and up underneath there you got another zone. Actually, that zone, if we drew it correctly, is a little bit farther down. Let's see if I can pull this down for you. So it's about to right in there, and so they're about equidistant. And then if you do one more, and I like them when they fall out this way, where they're about the same distance between each one. They don't have to be exact, but somewhere around the same time the same distance. These two bars, this little zone right here off of those bars, that's kind of the key area. And if I had to guess that this would come back, I would expect that's going to be the key area to try to buy it back if you can get that deep. That's about 7,300. So that's the way the Nifty 50 looks. To get there, though, of course, you got to break down this range, get up underneath it, and and then at that point, you'd actually have something. So looking at that, that's about 80. Let's get all this off here so we can see it. So it's about 8,100 or so. You get up underneath the 8,100 and stay there for a couple bars. Then you can eventually get that push back into this area. And as I look at it more closely, it looks like about, worst case, about 7,200. Best case, 75. So 75.5 to 7,200. Somewhere in there, and let me just draw it, it's these two bars. Somewhere in there is the sweet spot. And that's where you really want to try to pick it up. Might take a while though, right? These consolidations can go on for months. Okay, that's the Nifty 50. Let's come back and let's take a look at the final thoughts here tonight. Okay, one of the things I've been talking about is that earnings are probably not, and I underscore that, not going to drive this market significantly higher. So far we've had about 169 companies report. 71% of them have beat their estimates. Now, we all know how this works, right? Analysts go back and forth with the company and they keep lowering the estimates based on what the company's telling them, and then they get the bar so low. You like to think that the analysts are somehow doing all this magic work and deriving all this themselves. Well, it doesn't happen in a vacuum. I mean, we're fools to believe that. The company guides them. And so they lower the bar so low that the companies can beat. And so you always get 65, 70, 75, 80% of the companies beating. It's just always going to be that way as long as this game is rigged the way it is. But when you really look at the numbers, right, 34% of those had beaten on their earnings, but they missed on their sales. You can't play with this number. This number you can move around. You can't change the sales. They either are, or, well, you can. You can stuff the channel, right? That's something people talk about all the time, and that is that you can push sales from the next quarter. You can pull sales from the next quarter back into this one, or you can push them forward, right, so you don't recognize them into the next one. So there's a little give, but there's some strict rules around how you do that, and so it's not, you can't play with that number too much. But 34% beat on earnings, missed on sales. 44% have topped these lower analyst sales forecasts. And so, the sales are just not there, haven't been there, still aren't there. They're expected to drop 3.3 year over year. You got a 1.5% on the earnings drop. Folks, this market, if we look at our market, the market is at highs, yet earnings drop, sales drops. It doesn't compute. And unless those expectations are much higher for the next quarter, something's got to give, right? So I can't see earnings taking us higher. That's not going to happen. What's going to happen, in my opinion, is the rest of the world is going to drive us. And if we look at the rest of the world, let's go to the CACs first. The CACs tries to move back up yesterday, well, actually did move back up yesterday, tested the top, tries to move back up today. I don't have volume, but the volumes were fairly low today across Europe. Tomorrow's going to be the key day. It's going to be, can it get back up and over, or is it actually going to work back down and test these lows again and eventually come back in and do the retest regen? If I look at the DAX, it looks like the latter. The DAX was coming back, trying to test that bar, the big bar down. That low is 12,019, got down to 12, what was it? Excuse me, not 12,019, it was 11,674. We got to 11,675, so we miss it by a buck. It's probably going to test. It more than likely it will test out of the gate tomorrow, and we'll see whether by the time we start trading, we'll find out what that's going to do. Is it going to get underneath it and try to break this swing point low, or is it simply going to hold here? Now, I wouldn't be surprised to actually see it hold this area for a while, right? You kind of got two equidistant ranges. We could break this swing point low, get down here, freak everybody out, and then we see the buyers come in where that last consolidation level was. And it was a minor one, but you know, if you got down, and I covered this once before, if you got down into this price zone, that would happen just about the time, more than likely, that the CAX comes back in and does its retest regen off this prior high, right? So that comes in to do the test. That's the buy here, probably ends up being the buy over there as well, just about when everybody starts being fearful of it. If we go over to Asia, where Hong Kong and especially Shanghai are driving everything, Hong Kong goes over the top, back under, that's a failure. Hong Kong wants to trade lower. Question is will Shanghai? Shanghai did a doji last night, but it was a new high, but it's a doji at the high. And I don't have volumes on it, so I don't know what it looks like yet, but and I don't have a chart for you here tonight. Actually, I can grab one. Just a second. Let me grab it for you. I've got to get some quotes and get them into our package so that we can get on the TA Today charts. But here is the numbers. There's the volumes. I don't have volumes. Well, actually, I did have volume on that one. So 6.7 is about the same. But you can see it there. There's a doji high right at the top potentially. So tonight be a big case. You know, can that thing start to pull back? If it does, do they buy it? And actually, if you look at it one more time, this is the bar. Low of that bar is 41.90. If you get up underneath that, you're going to get a range going. So if Asia starts to trade sideways, if Europe continues to trade sideways, then at best, you know, with the earnings and everything, and I just don't see, and I've said that many times, I don't see how this market really trades substantially higher. There just isn't a catalyst, and these earnings are not the catalyst. So the NASDAQ will be the thing to watch tomorrow. You've got all your big guns, you know, firing tonight on their earnings. Let's see what they do with them, because if you look at some of these others that keep reporting, you know, I keep hearing how this stock is, you know, it's rising. It's up 5% today. Facebook last night, they go up, they come right back down. And there were some others that, you know, they were up, like eBay, but they couldn't really extend, right? They get ugly candles. How about over in you know, the Dow Jones world? I heard all about how Caterpillar was going to skyrocket. Well, it did, and came right back, right? And I've shown you others like you know, I don't have them on the tip of my tongue, but there's many of these folks. I look through all the earnings charts on a daily basis, one day after they report, to see what they look like, so I can give that to my members. When I look at these charts over and over, I don't see it. I don't see enough stocks strong enough giving me any kind of strong signals that they're going to continue. And if the stocks aren't doing it, the sectors aren't going to do it. If the sectors don't do it, the indexes aren't going to do it. They're all going to come back in. Folks, thanks for joining me. Have yourself a great night. And until next time, I bid you farewell. I've been trying to cut this down, keep it a little short. I've been asking for feedback. Tonight, give me your feedback, because next week, I'll probably go with whatever the majority wants. Have a great one. Take care, and I'll see you next time. Good night, folks.